then being sent to Haiti after the earthquake, I thought I would be working, which I did. I worked with child-friendly spaces with Food for the Hungry International. The first thing I ran into in those child-friendly spaces were child slaves. Children who were different than the rest of the children. Children who were treated different. Children who were talked to differently by other children. Those children are called Restavek. As I said, I work with the Restavek Freedom Foundation at this time, and there's more about that. I wanted to show you a brighter picture because what I just showed you was horrible. This I got this morning. I just downloaded that. That's a week. Well, this is Saturday. We have just a little over a week since this child was rescued from that orphanage. This is after 6 days of IV fluids. And that is the first smile we captured. And that is a very exciting smile. A lot of the things that I have seen in ministry through the years, I think in the beginning, we had to ask ourselves, holy cow, where was God? When I worked in Rwanda and started seeing the heinous situation there, I have to admit, I asked myself, where was God? And then I met Gary Haugen, and if you've met Gary, you know exactly where this is going. The question is not where was God, it's where were God's people. God has given us, all of us, what we need to respond to these kind of situations. We do not have to turn our heads. We do not have to stay in darkness. 7 months ago, I got thrown out of an orphanage because I was doing child development there, and I was taking toys. We have an educational toy library, and we work with Worldwide Orphans with that program. And we went to this orphanage because when we found the children, just as Wendy had mentioned, these children were severely delayed. This is a situation, this is not normal for orphanages, so I don't mean to present it that way, but there was something totally wrong. And as we worked with the children and we started doing ASQ assessments and a number of things, we came to find the developmental situation with these kids was so far behind that it needed more professional help. And it took us 7 months after being thrown out of that orphanage by their lawyers to organize an intervention where we had the New York, the NYPD, MINUSTA, the Haitian National Police, UNICEF buses, and just some missionaries, us. And 7 months later, we walked back into that orphanage. And those little guys, they were going, Wendy, Wendy, Wendy. And I was like, oh, you know, and most of that, we're still looking for a few of those children, but most of the children were still there, plus some new ones and emaciated in horrible condition. But what I want you to know this morning, and what we can talk about more, is that when we work together as missionaries, I've been a missionary for 30 years, we cannot work in isolation. Those days are over. We need each other, but not only do we need each other, we need the governments where we work. We need the United Nations and all the organizations that work. There are so many players, and we have to work together with them to make sure that these kind of situations are dealt with. One of the most exciting things going on in Haiti right now is called Compassion and Courage. It's our church-based response to Restavek. and to child slavery in every community in Haiti. About 6 weeks ago, we had an awesome conference, 800 pastors from all over Haiti, evangelical pastors, who stood up and said, we are standing up for freedom. We don't have to enslave our children anymore. We don't have to do that anymore. And the church is taking the lead. I thank God for just being able to be such a tiny part of just being there. I got goosebumps right now just remembering that moment when those pastors stood up and said, thanks you guys, but we got this. These are our kids, we've got this, and we will end Restavec in our lifetime. We're having 4 conferences like that this year. By the end of the year, we should have 1,500 churches all over Haiti standing up for freedom and saying, Restavec no more. So I just want to encourage you to stand up, wake up, look up. Don't cover your eyes. Don't turn away. Look at these kids. We're missionaries. We're out there. I was minding my own business in the middle, homeschooling, in the middle of the Meru Forest in central Kenya, when God said, you know what? I need you to take another step. And these are the kind of things that it has led me into over the past 15 years. So pray with us. I've got my cards here, and I'd love to talk to anybody who is open to that kind of discussion. I'm thankful for this forum. I'm thankful for Dick. We've been friends for years, working in Africa and in the HIV/AIDS issues. So let me know if there's anything that I can do to give you more information on this, or connect you in any way. We need your help, and we need to work together on this so that there won't be child slavery anymore. Thank you. I don't have a clue how to turn this off. Oh.
I think they're mine. They're not yours.
No, not mine. What are we looking for? Oh, the mics. Oh, wow. Hey, Laura, how are you?
Check.
Is there a third one for them? Oh, well, that's fine.
So, I'd like questions from the floor. Way back there. I'm trying to get the lights.
Well, my question is for Dr. Stairway. You mentioned that some of these young girls that you were talking about in your presentation, that some of them were abused and raped by their teachers and some other people, but I'm more focused on the teachers. What is the South African government doing in regards to maybe punishing the teachers somehow? Is there some kind of repercussion being taken against the teachers that are abusing these girls sexually?
Yeah, there are some active, aggressive programs to train teachers in HIV and AIDS awareness. And so then they're feeling responsible to go back and to the villages and share what they have learned in these workshops. I think one of the problems they run into is they're sensing that there's not community support for what they're trying to do. And so it's very difficult to really be outspoken and to really follow through on the training that you received when you run into that. And so there needs to be an ongoing conversation with members of the community, with parents, if you will, about what they feel they need to be communicating and how and what cooperation they need from the parents. I think also, in many cases, the parents are really not very educated themselves, and so on their own, they don't know how to approach these teachers. there's a kind of reverence for them, but there's a great distance between them. And so they're assuming that their children are being educated by what they need, but their concept of what they need is often different than what the teachers believe that they need. So that's a problem that I've run into.
Thank you. I have another questions, but I'll wait. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have a comment and a question. I spent about 7 months seconded to World Education, starting an OVC program in northern Tanzania. And so I got a huge dose of everything you were all talking about. Now, the Tanzanian government has made a very strong stand that they want communities to care for orphans, and that they are, in principle, not in favor of orphanages. But they still have a huge pushback from both unscrupulous people who, as you showed, use orphanages to raise money for their own good, and well-meaning Christian groups, mainly, who set up orphanages because they think that's the way they should do it. How do we move away to making this the norm? I know you're trying, but how, I mean, this, even when governments take a stand, Christian churches push back, and they have a lot of power in many of these countries, and they have the money. So how do we make this the norm rather than something that happens in Ethiopia or in Kenya or in northern, you know, how can we make this the norm among Christian groups? Because honestly, I see with PEPFAR, one of the reasons there was pullback from funding faith-based organizations to do OVC was some of what I consider the abuses and the poor strategies that some of the faith-based groups did. So in a way, faith-based can't say, oh, we're doing God's work, and then not follow best practices. So how do we get there?
I want to just be able to respond to that by saying this. I think the core reason for that is the $1.9 billion or $1.6 billion that's going toward orphan care and orphanages type. We have I think Wendy's on the right track. We have to educate the American church. We have to educate those of us here. I'm trying to educate missionaries in Haiti to stop sending children into Restavec. And I was stunned by prominent missionaries who, when I gave them my card, said, now you know the Restavec system is a cultural thing here, as if that made it okay. Prominent missionaries, and I said, yes, ma'am, I understand that. But the abuses have become so much that we have to change it. We have to stop. We have to start with something different. And so I think the education that Wendy and Food for the Hungry and a lot of organizations are doing, I think that is vital to us making headway. From our perspective overseas, every government in the countries that I've worked of, in Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Haiti, you mentioned Tanzania, all of them have made official statements that orphanages are not, institutional care is not ideal, and they're making effort to standardize practice, to monitor these things. But they need our help instead of our pushback. You know, sometimes the Christian organizations have the idea that if it's the government, it must be bad, you know. What I'm suggesting to you is that if we don't work at this together, we are definitely leaving children into a very vulnerable, a more vulnerable situation. So from the field perspective, we have to work better we have to do better at working with governments and others. And from the state side, I think Wendy knows what to tell us.
Yeah.